So we've seen some incredible games so far in the first half of 2024, and here are my top 7 favourite games ranked and in order that I love playing the most on my ROG Ally and Steam Deck OLED. So let's dive straight in, and at number 7 is a recent addition to Xbox Game Pass, which is a deeply atmospheric first-person narrative horror game called Still Waits the Deep, where we are on an offshore oil rig in Scotland, of all places, with weird goings-on, creating a claustrophobic, chilling and extremely tense horror outing. If you're a fan of horror, especially John Carpenter's 80s classic The Thing, then the great visuals, immersive audio design and relatively short 6-hour runtime will make this one to remember, so turn off the lights and binge it over a few evenings. At 6 is Palworld. That was a phenomenon when it launched back in January, and what I loved about this is how charming it was, a sense of exploration, combat elements and survival crafting, which really isn't my thing, but man, this game was and still is just actually super fun to play. I think another reason why it's made this list is that my 8-year-old son and I really bonded over this, as he played it on our Xbox Series X on Game Pass, I played it on the ROG Ally as I purchased it on Steam, and we discussed for hours and hours the different Pokemon, pals we both collected, and shared our tips and techniques for crafting and exploring together. They've just added a huge new expansion which is free that's doing incredibly well. I did a whole best settings guide on the Ally for Palworld 2, link in the description. At number 5 for me was Balatro, and I must admit the only reason I purchased this on Steam for a low price of around £12 a dollars was the monumental critical acclaim for this. It currently has a whopping 90% on Metacritic, as a deck building roguelike sounded horrifically unappealing to me. Now, it did take me about 45 minutes to fully understand and get into the game mechanics like the advanced Joker concept, but when it clicked, I was totally hooked trying to unlock the deck types, and yeah, just fully addicted trying to get that dopamine hit of a successful run with a huge multiplier. Fun fact that Balatro is only one of just 2 games, Call of Duty being the other one, where I just had to delete the game, purely because it was just too addictive, and productivity just took too much of a hit. At 4 is another relatively recent day 1 release to Game Pass in Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and this is exactly my favourite type of game, which is pretty rare in a linear, story-focused, one-play game of a reasonable length. And this really is an unforgettable experience, pretty harrowing and hard-hitting, as it deals with tough real-life issues like psychosis and mental health. And if you would have shown me this in the 90s as a kid growing up with the Game Gear that just 30 years later, this level of graphics would be possible on a handheld, then I just would not have believed you. It's insane. Not only does it have perhaps the best graphics I've ever seen on a handheld, I've done a best settings guide, link in the description, but it's quite possibly the best audio design in a game too, in which the spatial soundscape is unreal on the ROG Ally's incredible Dolby Atmos speakers.
So, what does it mean? If you want to know, you need to focus.
So we've got to my top 3 games of 2024 so far, and at number 3 is WWE 2K24. Us wrestling game fans have had to endure years of lackluster and mediocre wrestling games, which resulted in the abomination of WWE 2K20. Thankfully, developers' visual concepts have turned it around, and 2K24 could very well be the very best wrestling game ever made. In fact, I made a vid on this, link in the description. With a nostalgia-packed WrestleMania showcase and just incredible graphics and super fluid gameplay that lead to genuinely exciting matches. Plus, we never thought even a year ago that we'd ever see CM Punk back in a WWE game. And with the awesome new PS5 remote play app called PS Play, we can now even play it away from home. At 2 is a game longtime viewers know is my favourite game ever in The Last of Us Part 2, and this got a tremendous remaster back in January, so that when using the fantastic PS5 remote play apps in either Check You for Deck or PS Play, it is so good to revisit this with hours of director's commentary in cutscenes that add fascinating insights into how the game was made.
I don't know why I dug my heels in, and I was like, I do not agree with this, and I had such a problem with it. Because I felt like this was a secret that Joel was going to take to his grave, and he would just bear this sin.
You know, I often wonder why I'm so drawn to this game, and I think it's having a daughter of my own that I so relate to Joel, trying to protect her at all costs. And just the exquisite acoustic guitar heavy soundtrack is something that I so appreciate being a guitarist myself. I did a whole video on whether the game is better on the Ally or the OLED, link in the description. Just before we get to my number one, I do want to give some honourable mentions to games I didn't get the chance to fully play and rate. Hellblade was super popular this year. I've played just the demo, which was awesome, and I do hope to buy it when it's on sale. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a game I've heard tons of amazing critical feedback for. Many of you really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to check this out. And of course, Helldivers 2 was a huge hit this year, that you voted for on a recent community poll here on the channel as the best game in 2024 so far, with a whopping 39%. And finally, at number one for me was the indie hit of the year so far, Animal Well. Similar to Balatro, this didn't instantly appeal to me as I'm not really a big fan of Metroidvania type games, but again it was the critical fanfare that inspired me to give it a go, and this really is one of the most absorbing games you will ever play. This is packed with secrets and encourages us to use its various tools and weapons in endlessly ingenious ways. A true masterclass in level and puzzle design, which combined with its eerie and mysterious setting is a must play. Plus with the PS5 Remote Play app checking for decks, amazing HDR implementation on the Steam Deck OLED, the deep dark blacks coupled with the vibrant retro visuals make the game just look stunning. Listen, I would love to know your top 5 games of 2024 so far, so type your list in the comments. And as a thank you for watching this far, I'd love to share this awesome quote. Everything is going to be okay in the end. If it's not okay, then it's not the end. If you're going through one right now, either at work or with family, then just know that it is temporary and you will get through it. So stay encouraged today, guys. To find out how to get the awesome new PS5 Remote Play app called PS Play, click the top right for the ROG Ally and the bottom right for the Steam Deck OLED, and I'll see you in the next one.